Good evening, good evening, and welcome to the Stephanie Humphrey channel and the Stephanie Humphrey podcast. Welcome to Sip and Say with Stephanie. Woohoo! I hope y'all are doing awesome, amazing, and wonderful tonight. I am doing pretty good tonight. All is well. I cannot complain, y'all. It has been a busy week. I have had something. Monday night, I didn't have any activities, but I had some um not activities, but I had some things on my to-do list. There was some specific things I needed to get done on Monday. So I did that on Monday. Then last night I had class. Tonight I was at a meeting after work, and which is actually tonight is actually Wednesday night, y'all. This is pre-recorded. I'll get there in a second. Meeting tonight to meeting on last night, which was Wednesday to you because it's Thursday for you right now. It's Wednesday for me. I hope you understood that. Tonight is Wednesday. I'm pre-recording. So, anywho, tonight, Thursday, I'm actually at schools because we have some. I need to offer some support to them tonight, and so this recording is pre-recorded. This broadcast is pre-recorded tonight, but I wanted to make sure that I gave you the information that I needed to give you and that I said I was going to give you for tonight. So you have the information. I'm not live. As soon as I'm finished with the schools, though, I will hop on to the live chat and let you all know that I'm back in business as it relates to the 6:30 p.m. Stephanie Humphrey channel, Stephanie Humphrey podcast. I will chat with you about what I'm saying. And yeah, y'all. And then so next week, I know I told you all I have a special guest next week, but the Pocketbook Exchange is actually next week. So you'll have me for another Thursday. And then the next Thursday, we will have our special guest who I'll tell you about at the end of the broadcast. I'm hoping because I'm taking one of their Thursdays away next week that they'll be able to come on for the next two Thursdays after the first Thursday. So we'll see. I'm hoping to find out soon, and I'll let you know. And so tonight, you all, how y'all doing? How are you doing emotionally? How are you doing spiritually? How are you doing physically? How are you doing socially? And how are you doing mentally? Did I get everything? How are you doing mentally, emotionally, socially, physically, and spiritually? I am doing pretty good. So I said I've been busy all week. And so surprisingly, because I've been busy, and I mean busy this week, I'm surprised that I'm not as tired as I normally would be, maybe because it's Wednesday night and not Thursday night. I don't know. But I feel really good. I feel safe and secure. I feel excited, but I also feel very reflective. And so, you all know I started my degree program last night. I'm actually doing two parts of the program in one. And I started the latter part of the program started last night, and then the first part of the program starts this weekend. And I was able to engage with about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's about eight. I think the first one was like maybe two. So there's about 8 people that I was able to engage with last night in different group sessions as it related to the content that they shared with us last night. So I think the first one was a group of 3, then a group of 2, and then a group of 3. And it was good. The lessons were good because we did actually a lesson and then a reflection with the group. Then when we came back together, lesson, then a reflection, lesson, then reflection. So the lessons were good and the reflections were amazing. I love talking, as you all probably have guessed. And I love talking to people. I love hearing from people. I love hearing people's stories, love hearing their histories and what has shaped them or who has shaped them into who they are at this present moment in their lives or at that present moment in their lives that I'm talking to them. And you all, it's just phenomenal. It's amazing. Like, I'll just love listening. I love talking, love listening as much as I love talking. And so just to hear some of the stories of the individuals that I spoke with last night was beautiful, and sharing my story was beautiful, and answering the reflection questions from the lessons was beautiful. And I'm so me. I'm so much me that we did this reflection where we did mindful listening. And hopefully you all can participate in my wellness program. I'll tell you about that, if not tonight, at some point. But we did mindful listening. And y'all, when I say the Lord was just giving me things to share, and then we had to share back what we were saying or what we heard the individual that was speaking said. We gave back to them what we heard them say. And God was just giving me just insight about the groups that I was in. And they were like, oh, you on point. I was like, and I didn't tell them who I am. I mean, they just know I'm Stephanie Humphrey. They don't know nothing else about me, which is fine, you know. And it was just wonderful how just listening to these individuals speak and watching their expressions and things. I was just like, oh man, this is going to be a beautiful experience. As it was the first go around. And so I'm excited to be back in school. I'm excited to embark upon this new journey that the Lord has me on with my wellness, with your wellness, and everyone who wants to participate in my new adventure, the Be Well connection. Man, God is so, so good. And so I'm feeling blessed. I'm feeling inspired. I'm feeling empowered. I'm feeling reflective. In all honesty, I don't feel nervous, but there is a level of pause or hesitancy within me, not because of fear or anxiety, but because, wow. Like, wow, just a pause, just a hesitancy to be like, wow, let me just sit for a moment, be present in this moment, and absorb the things that I experienced last night, the conversations that I engaged in last night, and just absorb who I am in this moment. And then being present, and then even looking towards the future looking towards the future to see who I will become as a result of this journey. Y'all, God, ooh, child. It was so good and encouraging and inspiring. Okay, so let me get into it. Let's get into okay. That's the on the TV. All right, so you all, tonight we are going to talk about the different departments that are under the executive branch of the government. I'm going to finish that discussion, give you the 15 departments. We're going to talk about local and state government. I'll talk a little bit about the Electoral College, and then I'll give you some homework to do some for yourself. And then I am going to end with, if I have some time, I'll make sure that we don't go too long. But I do have information about early voting in all states and territories. Not territories, but states. I guess when I say territories, I mean Washington, D.C., because it's not yet a state. But I have information about that as well that I'm currently looking for, because I don't see it here. Okay, so it's attached there. Okay, then I got that here. So, in case you are interested, in case you care about the departments, so I forgot to tell you, I asked y'all how y'all were doing, and then I started talking about how I was doing. Let me know how you're doing in the chat, in the live chat. I am going to be checking soon when I get home. Let me know how you're doing in the comment section if you're listening to the rebroadcast. Okay. All right, y'all. Hope you're doing well. What y'all sipping on? There, sipping. Say what's that? I'm sipping on straight waters, and I'm looking at my. Let me do my glass. My muscadine. I'm looking at my alcohol-free muscadine sitting on the counter. I did take a swig of it before. Before I started this recording, but I was like, I really need some water, because I think I only drank like half of my. How many ounces is my aluminum bottle? It's like 100 and something, or is it 64? Maybe it's only 64. I don't know. I don't have that bottle for so long. I can't really remember how many ounces is in there. I think it might be 64. I only did about half of it today. And that's usually I try to get at least down to just a quarter left. And so I can tell, even me feeling thirsty right now, that I need some water, because we should never feel thirsty. We should stay hydrated enough that we don't feel thirsty. So I was like, I need some straight H2O tonight. I should have bought a refill container over here. So let me know what you're sipping on tonight. Drop it in the chat. or added to the rebroadcast if you're tuning in later. Okay, so the department, these are outlined in alphabetical order. The Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA, they develop and execute policies on agriculture, on food, and on farming. So they support our farmers and our ranchers. They promote agricultural trade and production. They make sure that our food is safe, and if not, they share information about the unsafe foods and what we should do, concerning that. They protect our natural resources and our forest. And they also help support or end hunger, not support, wrong word, but they help end hunger in the US and abroad. Okay. There are about 100,000 people employed in the USDA. And you all know the USDA supports school lunches as well. And also for early learning centers, early learning centers can apply for the USDA. I don't know if it's called a subsidy or if it's called a grant, but we get reimbursement. And I say we because I used to work in early education as an assistant director at two different centers at two different times. And so I was the one who at one center navigated the USDA as far as applying using, did I do the application? I don't think I did the application. I think our director did that, but I made sure that when the shopping was done, I gathered the receipts for her so that she could do what she needed to do. I feel like there was a few times that I submitted the receipts to the USDA so that we can get reimbursement. So that program is available under the USDA for early learning centers. I don't know how the schools do it. The public schools may follow a similar process. I don't know because I've never done it for public schools. I just know for early learning centers. And so the USDA again supports that process of funding for schools, funding for food for schools and early education centers. They also, the USDA also, because there's a housing program that the USDA supports as well. I don't really know how that works. I did look into it some years ago when I was looking for a home then, so I don't really remember how it works. But it is a grant process that you can apply for funding for homes. And so I don't know the guidelines. So you all look up the USDA for yourself so that you can get that information if you are looking for funding or support to purchase, to purchase a home. So I want to say, yeah, the USDA. So one of the agencies under the USDA is the Food and Nutrition Service. So that's where the support comes in for schools and early learning centers. The Forest Service is one of their agencies, and the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service is one of their agencies as well. The United States Secretary of Agriculture administers the USDA, so they are in charge of the Department of Agriculture. The Department of Commerce, money, 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 money. All right, that's not my song. I don't even know who sings. I should know that, right? But I don't know. But no copyright infringement intended. But the Department of Commerce, they create conditions for economic growth and opportunity in the U.S. They gather economic and democratic. They gather economic and demographic data. They issue patents and trademarks. They improve understanding and support of the environment and oceanic life. And they also ensure effective use of scientific and scientific and technical resources. Okay. They also formulate telecommunications and technology policy and promotes U.S. exports by assisting in and enforcing international trade agreements. They employ about 41,000 employees. The Department of Defense, or the DoD, they provide the military forces needed to deter war and to protect the security of our country. The DoD is housed in the Pentagon, and they take up almost all of the space. In the Pentagon, they're just that big. They actually have 1.4 million individuals on active duty. over 700,000 civilian personnel and about 1.1 million citizens who serve in the reserve forces and the National Guard. And so they employ a lot of individuals or have a lot of individuals under their care. So the Department of Defense consists of the Departments of Army, Navy, and Air Force. And this department includes the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the National Security Agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and the Pentagon Force Protection Agency. Those offices or agencies commands are under the DoD. I've already told you how many people they employ. The military and the civilian arms of the DoD protect national interests through wars, if that's what needs to happen, by providing humanitarian aid and by performing peacekeeping and disaster relief. Okay, so those areas fall under the DoD. The Department of Education, which is near and dear to my heart, they promote student learning and preparation for careers, colleges, and citizenship. Y'all, Department of Education is the entity who supplies federal fundings like Title I, Part A, Part B, Part C. And there's a Part D as well. And they each have a different thing. And y'all, I don't remember. This is out of order. So there's a part for ESL, English language learners, English as a second language or English language learners. There's a part for migratory children. There's a part for Title I. As it relates to supporting young people. I say young people, but students, young people who need some support academically. Those funds are provided to support them in their academics and undergird them in that area. So there's equity amongst our education system. So there's additional support like curriculum nights to support families and additional programming and software that's used throughout the school day to support students so that they can all be academically sound. Dibbles being one of those programs. And so yeah. And I know at my school, when I was in the school system, we actually used RAS Kids, which I really love. It was a literacy program that provided books and other resources. And my kids, y'all, loved those stories, loved those books, loved that program. And so I'm pretty sure at our school, because we were a Title I school, some of that Title I money went to support that particular literacy program for us. And it was more books. Like they provided like a wealth of books and just at different reading levels that you can, use to read with your kids, do during your guided reading time. Ugh, I love that program so much. And so, yeah, so the Department of Education provides federal funds to states that distribute that money to our local school districts to support students academically. And again, migrant children, ESL learners. And there's one area that I'm forgetting. I can't think of at this moment. But yes, so the Department of Education, again, it also, in addition to administering federal funds to public schools and to, all public schools, they also administer federal financial aid for higher education. So that's where the studentaid.org, I think it's .org, federalstudentaid.org, I think is what it is. So that's where that comes into play. So students who want to go to college, they can apply for federal funding through the Pell Grant and other funds or other monies that they can apply for and get access to, including student loans, which we're hoping that your student doesn't have to do that. But they also oversee educational programs and civil rights laws that promote equity in student learning opportunities. They also collect data to ensure that the schools are doing what we say we're going to do with the federal funds, to see how effective the programming is and all of that. The U.S. Secretary of Education, they have a employee number of 4,200 employees. I had no idea the U.S. Department of Education had that many employees, but That's a lot of employees. It's not as much as a DOD, but it's a lot. And so that's the Secretary of Education that one of the presidential candidates would like to get rid of, but hopefully he or they will not become president, because we need the Department of Education, because that Title I money is crucial to schools that are in lower income areas or rural areas, or even larger urban areas, but they have a low or they have a high number of students who come from lower economic status or disadvantaged homes, and they need that additional money so that the resources can be purchased to offer those students the support they need to like get them at grade level, whether it's reading or in their math, or to offer just additional programming for them to support them in their academics. And so yeah, the Department of Energy they promote America's energy security. By encouraging the development of reliable, clean, affordable energy. They fund scientific research to further their goal of discovery and innovation. They make sure America's nuclear security is, they make sure that they ensure America's nuclear security, and that's it. They also provide a responsible solution to the legacy of nuclear weapons production. That's a lot. Whew, that's a lot. Okay. The Department of Energy has 100,000 contracted employees and federal employees. That's a lot. But I'm pretty sure it takes just that many to navigate the entire United States of America as it relates to clean energy and discovery, innovation, scientific. I'm pretty sure some research is involved with that discovery and innovation, right? You got to have the research to determine the discoveries and how to go forth with innovative ideas and I want to say innovative practices, but practices is not the right word that I want to say, but innovative ideas. And like when you move from an idea to actually get to the product, that's the word I'm trying to find that I can't really find at this moment. All right, y'all. The Department of Health and Human Services, child. When I say child, because early education centers are under the Department of Health and Human Resources in each state. And so that is the organization that guides the child care rules, makes sure that early education centers, we call daycares, but I call them early education centers, making sure that we are following those child care rules, making sure that our centers are safe, our academics are what they need to be, the teacher certification and education licensure. They don't really do licensure. I don't think they use that terminology in early education, but making sure that the teacher certification and education is correct. Because you get your 1-star, 2-star, up to 5-star facility, 1-star facility, 5-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star. They just make sure the early education centers are just following the rules, safety rules, square footage for the amount of children that you're going to have there. Yes, I'm going deep, y'all. I'm pulling back because it's been a minute since I've been in early education. But I told you I was assistant director at 2 different centers. And so somebody must be talking about me, my nose be itching, right? That's what the seasoned folks say. So I'm pulling up those and I'm looking right at the child care book. Like I had a whole big binder with all the child care laws in it, all the child care rules, and I'm looking at the red writing and all the numbers and the 1.42 and all of that. Yes, playground, how the playground should be, the different types of like you had to have a certain amount of materials and items out there for the kids and child care laws, child care rules. And so anyway, so whenever I think of the Department of Health and Human Services, the first thing I think about is early education. That was actually my first job. You all working at a daycare was my very first job. I'm not gonna say them ladies was real nice to the kids at that time. I was a teenager. I think I got my first job at 16 or 17, and it was praise God. And so the Department of Health and Human Services, they protect the health. They've been charged to protect the health of all Americans by providing essential human services. And as far as I'm concerned, early learning education is an essential human service. That's just my opinion on it, my thoughts on it. But yes, that's what I believe that yes, that from 0 on up, 0 to 5, before they go to kindergarten, that early education, that foundation of learning, sitting down so you can listen to your teacher's information, sitting down to eat your food, outside playing, social skills, like all of that to me is an essential human services. Yes, I said it. So the Department of Health and Human Resources, the Department of Health and Human Services, they provide health and social science research. They work to prevent disease outbreaks and assures food and drug safety. And they also provide health insurance is under this department. They also administer Medicaid and Medicare, Medicaid for young people, Medicare for our seasoned saints, like our seasoned individuals in the United States of America. They oversee the National Institutes of Health, the Centers for Disease Control, and the Food and Drug Administration. When I think about the NIH, y'all, the NIH is the organization that is a supporter or sponsor of the Women's Health Awareness. So the Women's Health Awareness is an initiative through the NIH and the Deltas, one of the Divine Nine sororities. They actually support it in my area. And you all, this year in April was the 10th year they've celebrated. I've gone all 10 years. I brought some family with me. I've taken my nieces and nephews when they were younger. I took them with me because they were with me the week of spring break. And it happened that the Women's Health Awareness Fair was there, and they got them a little bag and all these little treats. Like they went home talking about them bags from the WHA because they were younger then and just excited to get something. And so NIH is a sponsor of the Women's Health Awareness. So when I think about NIH, I immediately go to the Women's Health Awareness. And so you all should check it out. They provided during the pandemic, they provided virtual classes, and they have actually provided virtual classes since then because I think I took 2 classes earlier this year. I haven't taken any since like winter, springtime, late winter, early spring. They offered 2 classes. One was on or was it last year? Somewhere between the last 8 to 9 months, because the one I took was about domestic violence. So it's possible it could have been in October with the awareness of domestic violence, or maybe it was earlier this year. I don't know. So that was one. And the other one, I see the young lady's face. Well, I don't see her full face, but I remember her. I think it was about environmental justice, if I'm not mistaken. We were talking about the environment with this young lady, and that may have been the end of last year because I don't remember that one as well as I remember the domestic violence one. But anyway, they provide resources. So NIH, I think about Women's Health Awareness and all of the resources that they offer to the community or make available to the community. So let me get back to so yeah, I think I'm done with that. The Department of Health and Human Services has 65,000 employees. The Secretary of Health and Human Services oversees this department. So the Secretary of whatever the department is, they oversee, that's their title for all of these departments. Okay, the Department of Homeland Security, let me go straight there. They protect American people from a wide range of foreign and domestic threats. They really should have stepped in January 6, 2021, but we're not going to talk about that tonight. And maybe they did step in at some point with all of the convictions, but maybe I should say they should have stepped in sooner. All right, y'all. They prevent and disrupt terrorist attacks. They protect our infrastructure and civilian computer networks. They facilitate lawful trade and travel. They also respond to natural disasters. They help support and protect our borders and regulate migration into our country. The Department of Homeland Security employs, let me tell you some of the other agencies or components, aspects of the Department of Homeland Security. It includes the U.S. Secret Service, the U.S. Coast Guard, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, Transportation Security Administration, and a few other components or aspects of the Department of Homeland Security, and they employ 250,000 people. That's a lot. That is a lot considering, well, considering everything that they do, that's the right amount to make sure, because I'm probably sure I'm certain that it probably takes a couple of hundred or maybe 1,000 people to protect us, like from security attacks, like protect cybersecurity, like to provide. So let me say it again. It probably takes a couple of hundreds, if not 1,000 or so, to protect us from cyber attacks. Okay, so that's cybersecurity. Make sure I say that right. And so, yeah, child, that's a lot. Okay. Um, So the assistant to the president of Homeland Security and the secretary, excuse me, of Homeland Security, they coordinate policies and they work together just to make sure all is well with our defense agencies and with our intelligence agencies. And I did want to note that the Department of Homeland Security, the Homeland Security Act of 22 with 2002, the Homeland Security Act of 2002, they are the ones that established the Department of Homeland Security, and it was all as a result of the September 11th, 2001 attacks in New York. And so that's why Homeland Security was established to, yeah, yep, to hopefully prevent that from ever happening again, as well as, working with other agencies to protect us here at home, and then to protect us from attacks from abroad. The Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. You know what? This is the department that does the housing. But I still think the USDA, I don't know why I think that they still have some type of support for housing, because I feel like I looked that up before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a note so I can look that up to make sure. I'm going to fact check myself afterwards. I feel like they had some support in housing, because I feel like I looked it up some time ago. So the Department of Housing and Urban Development, they are responsible for national policies and programs that address housing here in America. Okay, they address housing needs, improving communities, developing communities, enforcing fair housing laws. They support in-home ownership for low and moderate income families through rent subsidy programs, through mortgage insurance. The Housing and Urban Development Department includes the Federal Housing Administration, the Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity. The Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity ensures all Americans equal access to the housing of their choice. Woo, child, I have some things to say about that, because child, have they been operating in their area, child? I'm just trying to say. The Federal Housing Administration, they provide loan insurance and mortgage insurance. Okay. Anything else I want to say? The Community Development Block Grant um, helps communities with job opportunities, housing rehabilitation, and economic development. I'm getting back to the equity in housing, because when I think about, well, of course, redlining was happening at a time where segregation was still present in the real world. It was still present. It was still our reality. And even now, there's inequities in individuals, especially Black individuals, living where we want to live because of, about to say improper, but unfair practices with the banks still, even with real estate agencies still. But we're not talking about that tonight, but I still wanted to mention that, because there are still unethical and unequitable discriminations. Well, discrimination is never unequitable, but there are still inequities and discrimination in housing. Yes, there is inequities and discrimination in housing. Okay, so the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development employs about 9,000 individuals. The Department of for some reason, I love the Department of the Interior. Like, I love that name so much. I can't tell y'all why. It's just something about it that really speaks to me. The Department of the Interior protects America's natural resources, offers recreation opportunities, they conduct scientific research, they protect our fish and our wildlife. They also help to conserve our fish and our wildlife. And maybe because it deals with nature, I don't know. But the Department of Interior also is responsible to American Indians, to Alaskan Natives, and to island communities, supporting those and honoring those communities. Agencies within the Department of the Interior include the Fish and Wildlife Service, the U.S. Geological Survey, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. They also manage our national parks, and they help to protect, or actually do protect, wildlife, or endangered, not well, wildlife, but endangered species. They help to protect endangered species. They employ about 70,000 employees, and they have about 200,000 volunteers. So that's 270,000 individuals that the Secretary of the Interior is navigating through. That's a lot of people. The Department of Justice. Oh, let me make sure I got everything for the Department of the Interior. Yes. The Department of Justice enforces the law. They ensure public safety against threats, foreign and domestic, and they ensure fair and impartial administration of justice for all Americans, as well as other things, like preventing crime, controlling crime, making sure that punishment for crimes or unlawful behavior is equitable or correct. They also, some of the components or agencies or organizations within the DOG is the Drug Enforcement Administration, the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. I know we know who that is, the Federal Bureau of Prisoners, and the U.S. Marshals. The Attorney General is the head of the DOG, and the head of the DOG and the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the federal government, and they are the counsel that represents the government if the government is sued or whatever the case may be. The Attorney General represents the government. The DOG doesn't tell me how many employees that they have, but it does say that the DOG is the world's largest law office and central agency for the enforcement of federal laws. All right, I think that's good. The Department of Labor promotes the welfare um, of job seekers, wage earners, and retirees in the U.S. by improving working conditions, advancing opportunities for profitable employment, protecting healthcare benefits, protecting retirement, strengthening free collective bargaining, and other economic measures to ensure that our economy is running well with employees. And so they make sure that we have a strong, good, I guess maybe even happy workforce, but at least a strong workforce, even if we're unhappy. I guess they can't do everything, right? The Occupational Safety and Health Administration and the Bureau of Labor Statistics is under the Department of Labor. And so, yes, child, making sure y'all. So we have to take what do they call them? I don't know what they're called. They actually have an official name. We have to take classes as it relates to safety within the school system. And I like that we have to do that every year just to ensure we know how to navigate like if there's like water or some type of spill on the ground, how do we navigate that? Who do we contact? And if we happen not to see it and we fall, what happens with that? We have to take training about like if we have to get something from that's beyond our reach because of our height, it's beyond our reach. It tells us how to safely use a ladder and other safety precautions that are needed within the school system. We also do like other training as it relates to health, like, I'm trying to think like head injuries, concussions, and different things like that. We take, and let me just speak for our district. In the last district I was in, we take those types of trainings just to make sure that we have that information every year and just are reminded about the information every year for ourselves and to make sure our students stay safe as well. And so that's not necessarily under the department of the interior, but it just made me not the Department of Labor. Um, Even though the working conditions one is making sure about the spills or having to get something beyond our reach and using a ladder and not a chair, teachers or anybody else, making sure that we're bending at the waist and with our knee, not bending at the waist, that's a lie, that's not right, let me say it right, bending with our knees and not at the waist as not to cause any injury to our body and our back. Those types of things. We take those types of trainings at the beginning of the year. Now I know that, like I said, the safety trainings I think are under the Department of not the actual trainings that we take, but being safe on the job is a part of the Department of Labor. But the trainings that we take is not, that's just something recommended or not necessarily recommended, but required by the school district. Okay. But safety is definitely under the Department of the Department of Labor, making sure that we're staying safe and especially I'm thinking like manufacturing jobs where there's machinery that needs to be used to perform the job, just making sure that the equipment is inspected and safe for employees to use. The department, I don't know if I'm thinking about elevators and checking the mm, not the fire hydrants, but the mm, fire extinguishers. I knew it was gonna come to me eventually, but checking the like elevators because it's electric, and then our fire because on the elevator. I think that's under the Department of Labor. You see the individual who's the secretary of that department, at least for the state, they're signing off on it. And then there's numbers, of course, attached to fire extinguishers because they do expire. And so, anywho, just thinking about all that. Okay, let me refocus. Let me refocus. So the Department of Labor, we didn't have a number for them, did we? 15,000 employees. All right, the Department of State, I got just a few more departments left, y'all. The Department of State, of course, as soon as I saw it, I thought about Hillary Clinton, but they develop and implement the president's foreign policy. They deal with foreign military training programs, representing the United States abroad, countering international crime, and other services. The U.S. maintains diplomatic relations with approximately 180 countries, and the Secretary of State is the person who leads those efforts of diplomacy. The U.S. Secretary of State navigates those diplomacy efforts. Um, and the Secretary of State is a top foreign policy advisor to the president, and the Secretary of State oversees about 30,000 individuals. Yes. And so the Department of Transportation ensures that our transportation ways are safe, accessible, and efficient. I mean, anything dealing with transportation is under the Department of Transportation. Our trains, our roads, our vehicles, Department of Motor Vehicles, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Federal Transit Administration, Federal Aviation Administration, Federal Railroad Administration, and the Maritime Administration is all under the Department of Transportation. Also, the Federal Highway Administration. All of those entities are under the Department of Transportation. Accessibility and efficiency and safety. Come on here, somebody. There's about 55, and they also lead our roads. Their department. Um, yeah, I'm thinking, I don't know this for sure. I'm just thinking they give power to the states, the Department of Transportation in every state to navigate roads or to make sure that roads are safe or to determine what roads need to be repaved, when we're gonna go fill these of potholes, whatever is unsafe on the roads. The state departments um, those particular, navigate those particular areas. And so all of that is under the Department of Transportation. Department of the Treasury, money, 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 money. So they are responsible for promoting inclusive economic prosperity for all Americans. When I read it, I was just like, mm. They work to elevate the standard of living for all Americans. They support communities, promote racial justice, combat climate change, foster financial stability. They also produce our monies, our coins, our forwarding money. The Department of the Treasury. Come on in here, somebody. I'm thinking about Andrew Jackson right now. But anywho, um, they disburse payments that are owed to citizens in the U.S., like our taxes. If you get a refund on your taxes or whatever other disbursements that may need to come to you, that's under the Department of Treasury. They collect taxes. They borrow funds if that is needed to balance our budget or to make sure we have enough money to do what we need to do. They, excuse me, make sure that our financial systems are safe and in working order. They implement economic sanctions against foreign threats to the U.S. They also identify and target financial support networks at threat and national security. And so the Department of Treasury oversees 100,000 employees. The last department is the Department of Veterans Affairs. This department is responsible for administering benefit programs for veterans, their families, and their survivors. Those benefits include disability, home loans, pension, education, life insurance, medical care, burial benefits. All of that is under Veterans Affairs. The Veteran Affairs Department employs 235,000 employees. Okay. Of course, I'm thinking veterans. My mind automatically went to the GI Bill. Of course, for education, get you a home, and how a lot of our Black veterans were left out of that benefit. So those are the departments, you all, of the executive branch and the departments that help the president and the vice president and his administration run smoothly. So let's get into our state and local government. So let's see where I want to start. So each state has its own written constitution. Sometimes state, or in most cases, if not all cases, let me see if it's all cases. In most states, the Constitution is more detailed than the actual U.S. Constitution is. And so the US Constitution mandates that all states hold a quote unquote Republican form, which does not, and they can do that Republican form, they can do it however they choose to do it. Each state can come up with their own guidelines, with their own rules about how to administer or interpret and administer that quote unquote Republic form. Many states, I think all state governments actually model the federal government in that they have an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch. My nose has been itching most of the time. I don't even understand what's going on. Okay, so the executive branch is headed by the governor in every single state. Every single state has a governor. They have the governor, the lieutenant governor, the attorney general, the secretary of state. They have commissioners, they have auditors. All of these individuals are elected officials. They are elected officials and they run each state. And then we have Congress and stuff. We'll talk about that. But they lead. They're headed by the governor, and then these other leaders include the individual positions that I just named. States do have the right to organize in whatever way they choose to organize. And again, most states do have the executive, legislative, and judicial branch. So that's under the executive branch, headed by the governor. Then we have the lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, auditors, and commissioners. So the legislative branch, all 50 states are made up of elected representatives. Okay, legislators are elected. Okay, they are elected to serve. Okay, they consider matters brought forth by the governor or introduced by its members to create legislation that becomes law. Okay, legislators also review and approve the state's budget. They also initiate tax legislation and articles of impeachment if that is what is needed. Every single state except the state of Nebraska has a upper house and a lower house. Okay, the upper house is a small house, the lower house is a larger house. And these are the chambers of government that rule the state. So led by the governor, but you still have to have your legislative branch that is enacting, laws at the state level. Okay, so the two chambers, the upper house and the lower house, they make state laws and they fulfill other responsibilities. Okay. Nebraska, instead of having the two chambers, they actually have one chamber, which that ain't too bad. Yeah, it's not too bad. So the upper chamber is the Senate. And they serve 4-year terms, and then the lower chamber is the House, and they serve 2 terms. Now, some states call their House of Representatives, or they call them House of Delegates, or they call them Assembly. So, whatever your state is, that's one of the names that of representatives that are in the lower house or the lower chamber. I think that's all I want to say about the legislative branch. Again, they make the state laws and do other things within at the state level. Um, the judicial branch and the legislators also govern in governing the state budget. They govern everything from like education, other service workers like firefighters, police officers. They determine how much money's in the budget for community colleges, for whatever other programs are needed, unhoused individuals, like they help appropriate those monies um, to whatever areas are needed, or they add it to the state budget so they can be appropriated to whatever areas are needed. So yeah, that's a heavy responsibility. Our legislators at the state level, just like it is legislators in Congress, it seems like we should all be able to get along for the American people, but that's another topic, right? The state, oh, let me take a sip. The state judicial branch is led by the state Supreme Court. They actually hear appeals that come from the lower level state courts, okay? Court structures and judicial appointments or elections are determined by the legislation or the state institute. Not the state institute, the state constitution. Lord have mercy. Time for me to wind this up. So, court structures and judicial appointments or elections are determined either by the state constitution or the legislation. Similar to the United States, Supreme Court. The state Supreme Courts, once they make a rule, it's usually binding. It's usually is what it is. Okay. When questions are raised regarding the consistency of the U.S. Constitution, those concerns may be appealed to the United States Supreme Court, as we discussed last week. So let's talk about local government. We have our counties. In Louisiana, they are known as parishes. In Alaska, they're known as boroughs. So we have our counties, boroughs, or parishes. And then we have our municipalities, which include our cities and our towns. So those are the levels of government in your community at the local level. There are, let's see. So, let me see. Okay, so there are various kinds of districts within our local government that provide different functions to make sure that the local government is running as smoothly as possible. And so, like we have those districts. Hold on, let me read this to make sure because I didn't get my notes exactly like I should. Okay, so an example of those are like a fire protection district or the school district. So for the cities, towns, or which is a municipal governments, they or municipal governments are cities, towns, and boroughs. Um, except in Alaska, it says there's towns, there are villages, townships, because there are such things as townships. Um, what do I want to say about those areas? So those municipal governments are organized around the population of that particular area, and in a lot of cases, it corresponds or how the makeup corresponds with geographical destinations. Okay, that's why we have all these issues with the voting and then wanting to redraw districting maps or voting districting maps so that certain people can vote in a certain area. Like all the white people voting over here, all the put the black people over there. So yeah. So anyway, all of that is under our municipal government as it relates to. Well, actually, maps are drawn. I don't know if maps are drawn at the local level and then approved by the state. I need to make a note to check that out. And y'all, I did write down some of the things that I was supposed to check out tonight from yesterday. I mean, that I was supposed to speak on tonight from last week, not yesterday. And I may have to do a separate video to speak on those things. So I did write down the notes, but I didn't get a chance to do the research. And so I'll have to check that out. So when they draw redistricting laws, not redistricting laws, but redistricting lines, I know they can do that at a local level. I'm thinking they do it at a local level because they do it with school districts and they do it when it comes time to vote as well. So I need to determine, is that just a state thing or does local government have the authority to do that and then approve it on their own? So I apologize that I don't have that information. And let me see if it's even mentioned here. And I thought about it as it relates to geographical destinations and how Black people at one point and still prevalent in some areas try to keep us in one area and the white folks in another. So municipalities usually are responsible for the police and fire departments, housing, EMS services, municipal courts, transportation, parks and recreation, public works, and the like. So, last thing I think I want to say about this, local governments must be granted power by the state. So that may have answered my own question, that states have to approve any redistricting recommendations. So we do have mayors, city council members, county commissioners. They govern local governments, and those are elected officials. Our mayors are elected, our county commissioners are elected, our city council individuals are elected as well. Hold on, is the city council elected? Yes, yeah, yeah, they are as well. I feel like I know the commissioners well because I used to attend county commissioner meetings, but I have never, and of course, school board meetings, I have never been to a city council meeting, which is interesting, right? But yeah, yep. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say. So also, y'all know sheriffs. Sheriffs are elected officials too. One thing that I do want to note, and you all have heard me say this before, that local elections are just as important, if not more important, than presidential elections. So when presidential elections come around, vote. When primaries come around, vote. It is important that we vote, exercise our right to vote in every single election. And since I'm talking about voting, I'm encouraging you, if you just turned 18, get registered to vote. If you are a parent, legal guardian, foster family, um, and you have a young person that's just turned 18, get them registered to vote. And then once you get registered to vote, keep a regular check on your voter registration to ensure that it remains active, and then make a plan to vote. Whether you're going to vote early or going to vote day of, make a plan to vote. Make a plan for your family to vote. If there are elderly in your community or maybe disabled in your community, and you have a good relationship with those individuals, find out, how are you voting? Do you need support? Do you need help? So let's make sure that we help our neighbors if we can do that. Oh, needed that sip. If we have the relationship with them to do that, offer them support and help, encourage them to make a plan to vote. And whoever you vote for, whoever you decide on, just exercise your right to vote. Okay. I'll say it again. Do the research on the history, do research and history search on the candidate so that you know exactly who you are voting for. Know their history, know the things that they have done already to support your community at the local, state, and federal level. Just do your research and know who you're voting for and know who you're voting against. Just know who the candidates are in every single race that we are voting for. During early voting, which I know early voting is happening in at least one state, I know. So do the research, know who you're voting for in the early voting, and then on election day. I know I said that like 3 or 4 times, but I want you all to get it. Know who you're voting for. Research, get the history of that candidate, and see if they are the best one to lead, or get to lead, be a leader to lead the local government, state government, and federal government. Okay. Register to vote, check your voter registration to make sure you're active, and make a plan to vote. All right, y'all. Last thing. Oh, I forgot about I forgot about the electoral college. I was like, oh, I'm about to wrap this up. Let me take another sip, y'all. I'm having issues. Okay, I think the electoral college is going to be short and sweet. So the Electoral College consists of 538 electors. I think I mentioned that last week. It takes a majority of 270 electoral votes to elect presidents. Okay. Your state has the same number of electors as it does members in the congressional delegate. So that is equal to the number of House of Representatives that you have, as well as your 2 senators. Okay. District of Columbia has 3 electors. They are actually treated like a state for the purpose of the Electoral College. Okay. And that is, you can check out the 23rd Amendment of the Constitution for that. Okay. So, how are electors chosen? Okay. So, let's go back to the process. So, the Electoral College process consists of the selection of the electors, the meeting of the electors where they vote for president and vice president, and the counting of the electoral votes by Congress. Okay, so we got that. We got the number. So electors are chosen, qualifications, all of that. So each candidate running for president in your state has their own slate or group of electors. Okay, they are generally chosen by the candidate's political party in your state. Okay. Now, the state laws that regulate how the electors are selected and the responsibilities of the electors, that varies state by state. So check your state to know what the rules and guidelines are for the qualifications of electors in your state. but the slates are usually chosen by the candidate's political party in that particular state. So you all are going to have to look up the qualifications and all of your state, because I can't tell you what's going on in your state. Okay. So look that up for yourself. Just know that the meeting of the electors takes place on the first Tuesday after the second Wednesday in December after the general election. Okay. The electors, they meet in their respective states. They cast their vote for president and vice president on separate ballots. And then the state's electoral votes are recorded on the certificate. I'll try to say secretary, but they are recorded on the certificate of vote. That certificate of vote is prepared while the electors are meeting, so that everybody knows the certificate of vote is being prepared, and then it is given to Congress. That certificate of vote is given to Congress or sent to Congress. Okay. So each state's electoral votes are counted in the joint session of Congress on January 6th. Members of the Senate and the House meet in the House chamber to conduct the official count of the electoral votes. The Vice President of the United States is President of the Senate and presides over the counts. Okay, and strict guidelines are followed. Okay, I do want to note that something I think that I forgot. Okay, so the president of the Senate, who's the vice president, presides over the count. They announce the results of the vote. And then the president of the Senate declares which persons have been elected as president and vice president. Okay. And then we know that the presidential oath and the vice presidential oath is taken on January 20th. Something I forgot to mention that I do want to note as it relates to the Electoral College process. After the general election, the state's executive prepares a certificate of ascertainment that lists the names of the individuals that are slated for each candidate. It also lists the number of votes each individual received and shows which individuals were appointed as your state's electors. Okay. And so that certificate of ascertainment, it becomes a part of the official presidential election, and it also is sent to the National Archives and Records Administration, okay, so they can be documented. So just wanted to give you that piece of information as well. And that's all I have to say about the Electoral College. Anything else you want to know, please do your research, and definitely do your research about the guidelines in your particular state. I think I have time. It is a little for the fourth time. It is a little over an hour, which I'm doing good, y'all. I'm just gonna give you a quick rundown, y'all. This probably gonna take about 20 minutes, so I'm still within my 1 hour and 30-minute time frame that I was trying to stay into for the night. I want to give you a quick overview of the early voting dates that I have seen. Now, look, I'm going to give you the dates, y'all, but check the dates for yourself in your state, okay? Check the dates for yourself in your state. Did you hear what I said? Check the dates for yourself in your state. Go to your state board of elections so that you can see for yourself. For my podcast list, I'm looking over my glasses so you can see for yourself the early voting dates in your state, okay? All right, now, don't be saying Stephanie said. I did say based on the information that I have received, but check for yourself. All right, so the state of Alabama, and this is alphabetical order, the state of Alabama does not offer early voting. or at least it's not offered in this particular election. I don't know if it's offered in previous years. I can't say. I'm just reading what my notes say. Alaska, your early voting is October 21st through November 5th. I'm sorry, these are general election and early voting. Okay. Oh, no, no, no. I see it. I see it. I see it. I see it. It does say general election early voting date. So 2024 general election early voting date. So I'm just curious because November 5th is actually election day, but each state has its own guidelines. So Alaska's early voting dates, October 21st through November 5th. Arizona, October 9th through November 1st. Arkansas, October 21st through November 4th. California, October 7th through November 5th. Let me just slow down a little bit. Colorado, October 21st through November 4th. Connecticut, October 21st through November 3rd. Delaware, October 25th through November 3rd. District of Columbia, October 28th through November 3rd. Florida, let me take a paper here to make sure I'm moving through this correctly. Florida, October 26th through November 2nd. Georgia, October 15th through November 1st. Guam, October 7th through October 31st. Hawaii, October 22nd through November 5th. Idaho, October 21st through November 1st. Illinois, September 26th through November 4th. Indiana, October 8th through November 4th. Iowa, October 16th through November 4th. Kansas, October 16 through November 4th. Kentucky, October 31st through November 2nd. Louisiana, October 18th through October 29th. Maine, October 6th through October 31st. Maryland, October 24th through October 31st. Massachusetts, October 19th through November 1st. I always question whether I pronounce that state name correctly. Michigan, October 26th through November 3rd. Minnesota, September 20th through November 4th. Mississippi, September 23rd through November 2nd. Missouri, September 17th through November 4th, and it has a note in parentheses without excuse. So Missouri, you probably know what that means. I don't, just know it's there. I'm sorry, that's incorrect. I said Missouri incorrect, so I'm going to restate Missouri. So I said it incorrectly. The correct dates for Missouri is September 17th through November 4th, in parentheses with excuse. Also Missouri, October 22nd through November 4th, without excuse. So you all in Missouri know what that means. I have no idea. I'll probably look it up later just for my information, but you have that there. September 17th through November 4th with excuse. October 22nd through November 4th without excuse. Montana, October 7th through November 4th. Nebraska, October 7th through November 4th. Nevada, October 12th through November 1st. New Hampshire, it is noted that early voting is not offered in New Hampshire. New Jersey, October 26th through November 3rd. New Mexico, October 8th through November 5th. New York, October 26th through November 3rd. North Carolina, October 17th through November 2nd. Now, for North Dakota, listen closely. North Dakota, it is noted for the people in North Dakota to contact your local election office to confirm dates and times. Ohio, not November. Ohio, October 8th through November 3rd. Oklahoma, October 30th through November 2nd. Oregon, October 31st through November 5th. Pennsylvania, September 16th through November 5th. Rhode Island, October 16th. Let me go back to Pennsylvania. September 16th through November 5th. Make sure I have that right. I may have said it right the first time. I wanted to make sure. Rhode Island, October 16th to November 4th. South Carolina, October 21st through November 2nd. South Dakota, September 20th through November 4th. Tennessee, October 16th, 16th, October 16th through October 31st. Texas, October 21st through November 1st. Utah, October 22nd through November 1st. Vermont, October 1st through November 4th. Virginia, September 20th through November 4th. Virgin Islands, October 14th through October 28th. Washington, October 18th through November 5th. And that's the state of Washington. Okay. West Virginia, October 23rd through November 2nd. Wisconsin, October 22nd through November 3rd. Wyoming, October 8th through November 4th. Again, you all, please, just in case my enunciation did not translate well to the podcast and to the broadcast, please make sure that you check your state's Board of Elections for your early voting times, for your early voting dates, to determine if there is in-person absentee in your state, and just everything as it relates to voting. Check your state Board of Elections. I'm hoping I enunciated each date correctly and each state correctly, but again, and I'm hoping it translated well, but just in case I made a mistake or it did not translate well in my pronunciation and enunciation, I encourage you once again to check your state Board of Elections website for information, all information as it relates to voting. Again, register to vote, check your voter registration, make a plan to vote. That is all I have for tonight. Again, thank you so much for joining me on tonight's broadcast as we discussed the branches or the departments that are under the executive branch of government, as we talked about local and state government, as we talked about the Electoral College and early voting. I really appreciate you all sticking with me, staying with me, and being a part as we learn or relearn about civics, and as we learn and relearn about what goes on in the governmental processes and departments and such. So thank you for being with me tonight on the Stephanie Humphrey channel, the Stephanie Humphrey podcast. I do want to invite you to join us next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. for the Pocketbook Exchange. Our theme is on the move. Yes. Moving to the side, moving forward, and moving beyond are the topics for our Saturday sessions on October 5th at 9:30 for ladies only. But everybody is welcome to join us next Thursday, October 3rd, and October 4th, that Thursday and Friday night at 7 p.m. I will be bringing forth the word on the move. My mom, Sister Brenda Humphrey, the visionary for the Pocketbook Exchange, she will be bringing the word that Friday on the topic or on the theme on the move. Child, we just gonna get moving. How about that? So you are welcome to join us next Thursday, not at 6:30, but at 7 p.m. next Friday at 7 p.m. And then our special guest, drum roll, for October, some of October, all of October, we're going to see, since I had to take one of his dates away, will be my uncle, Deacon Gregory Humphrey. He will be your special guest for the second Thursday in October, and I'm hoping for the third Thursday in October. I did ask another individual to join us in October, but I did not get that person's I did not get the information to them. Like I gave them a verbal invitation, but I did not give them an email with the information to it. So they may not be able to come on. So you all may have me back at the end of October. I hope you don't. looking at the calendar right now. I hope you don't. It's 5 Thursdays in October. I hope you don't have me back the 4th and the 5th. Y'all know I usually take a break for the 5th, but just if I'm not back, then I might be back on the 31st just to say hey. We'll see what happens. But my uncle will definitely be here on the 10th of October. And I'm hoping the 17th, and maybe I can convince him to do the 24th as well if I don't get the other family member that I asked to be on with us. So that's that. Be Free Ministries is sponsoring Aunties Against Abuse health and wellness sessions. We have a session coming up on Saturday, the 28th at 10 a.m. Community conversations, talking to young ladies about their health and well-being, helping them to make a plan, helping them to identify any negative areas that they need to work on, helping them to celebrate the positive areas that they have established. Like we're talking everything, helping young ladies impacting young ladies to be intentional about improving and enhancing their personal well-being. So if you want your young lady ages 5 to 18 or age 5 to 18 to join us on Saturday, go to auntiesagainst.abuse.org website, click on the wellness events. The information is there. The registration form is there. Go ahead and get registered so you can get the link and join us on Saturday. If you're not available on Saturday, the symposium is coming up on October 19th at 9:30 a.m. Again, go to auntiesagainst.abuse.org website, click wellness events, and you will see the information and the registration form there. All the events are absolutely free for young ladies ages 5 to 18, and all the events are virtual, okay? And after the symposium, your young lady will receive a wellness bag with personal care items to continue to support them in their personal well-being. We're also going to offer some check-in sessions in 2025. Young ladies are welcome to join our teaching sessions in 2025. And we'll also have a resource hub for young ladies and their families to access resources, articles, information to help young ladies ages 5 to 18 continue to be intentional about improving and enhancing their personal well-being. Okay. All the information is on auntiesagainstabuse.org. Going back to the Pocketbook Exchange, go to befreeministriesnc.org for registration information if you're coming on Saturday. And if you're joining us Thursday and Friday, the link for the Stephanie Humphrey channel is there. All the information that you need about the Pocketbook Exchange is there. So visit that site, befreeministriesnc.org. All right, y'all, I am done. Again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate you. And we will see you next Thursday at 7 p.m., Lord willing. Y'all be blessed.